Okay, so now that I've got my table ready, I probably should put some data in there, I suppose. So I'll go ahead and insert some data into my table. And so I click on my cars table, and you'll see that I've got an insert tab up here, and I'll go ahead and make some models. Okay, so I filled out the information. I've got a Toyota Camry. The image is Camry.jpg. It's $20,000, and I've left the ID blank because that's going to be auto-incremented. Here I've got a Honda Civic. Its image is civic.jpg, 18,000, and also I've left the ID blank because it's going to be auto-incremented. So now I can just go to Go here, and then that has inserted some rows. I can go to Browse, and I can see that those cars have actually been entered into my database. Alright, now I can go to the next thing. So right now I've got this home page, and my home page has a login form, but I want it to show my cars that I have for sale and then show the login form. So the login form is going to be on the bottom and the cars are going to be on the top. And to do this, I've got to go back to that login form. That was a form that was called index.html. So I'm going to open up the index.html. That was in my htdocs folder, and I can see it right here, so I'll go ahead and open that up. So here it is. I want to take this login form and add some PHP to it that'll put that database data there. So I'm going to put some PHP tags here. So there's my opening PHP tag and my closing PHP tag, and you'll see that I have encapsulated these tags right in the middle of my HTML, and that's perfectly fine to do. The only thing is that I can't call it index.html anymore. It's got to be called index.php. So I'm going to go ahead and say File, Save As, and I'll put it right in the htdocs, and I'll call it index.php. Now that should override the index.html page, and to check it, I'm going to write echo hello semicolon within full quotation marks. I'll save that. That's index.php. I go to my web browser, type in localhost, and refresh it, and it does say hello and then the login page. So this is looking good. Okay, so now I can go ahead and add the other stuff to my page. Files been modified. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to connect to the database, grab all of my rows out of there, and then display those on the page. So to do this, I'm going to start by importing the database connection object. That's the dbc.php file that we created in an earlier video. And so to do that, I'm going to say import. It's not import, it's include. I'm sorry. Include, there's some quotation marks, dbc.php. That will give me the $ connection object. So if you remember, this creates a connection object that connects to my database. Besides the connection object, I also need an SQL statement. So I'm going to create a variable called SQL, and I'm going to set that equal to some SQL. Select star, that means select all the tables, select all the columns from cars. That's the name of that table. Okay, now that I've got that, I'm going to get rid of this echo here. I can go ahead and create a variable called results, or result, and I can set it equal to my SQLi query. So that's a method that'll go to the database and get some data from it. I just have to supply it with two parameters, the connection and the SQL. So that will go and get my data for me, put it in the results. Once I've got it, it's going to be in a table format with lots of rows, and I've got to go through each row, working on each row at a time. So I'm going to use a while statement for that. So while I still have rows in my results, execute what's in these curly brackets. I'll put a little end while here. and put some space in between those curly brackets. And my while conditions are $row equals MySQLi underscore fetch associate ASSOC. And all I have to do with this method is put the results in here, or the $result that I got from my query. Okay, so this will loop for every single row that I have in the table that's returned. And what I want to do is I want to harvest the data. So I'm going to create some variables. I want to have ID, and this matches the names of the table. And then I'm going to have the make and model. I'm going to have the image, and I'm going to have the price. So those are the variables that I want to fill, and I'm going to set them equal to my row. That's what was fetched. And I can put these brackets here, and I can specify the column name. So the row ID, semicolon, $row make and model, image, $row, and that's the image column, and lastly the price. Okay, so now I've harvested all of the data from that one row, and for every row I want to create some HTML that's going to be displayed on the page. And the way I'm going to do this is I will start by creating a variable called HTML outside of the while loop. So before I do the while loop, I'll create a variable called HTML, and I'll assign it to an empty value. So this will have no value here. And then every time we loop, I'm going to create or add to that so that the HTML will grow and grow. And I'm going to put dot equals, so that takes whatever the HTML is equal and adds to it. And then it's going to, I'm going to have two quotation marks and a semicolon. This is where my HTML is going to go. And what I can do is I can use multiple lines in between these quotation marks. And I'm going to have a heading tag, head1, and I'll put the $make and model. So that will display the head make and model within the headlines. And then I can put the image. So I'll put an image tag, img, and I'll say that the source equals, and I can't put full quotes here because I'm working within full quotes, so I have to put half quotes. And the source is going to be in the image folder, /, and then the variable in the database, which is image. And so there's my image tag. And then I'll put, let me just put a break tag at the end of that. And then what I'll do is I'll put the price in italics. So I'll put the I tag, price, and I tag. Okay, so that's going to create a bunch of HTML, and then at the end of the while loop, after it's looped through every row, I'm going to then echo out that HTML, and that will be nestled right above my login page. So let's go ahead and try this. I'll save it, and I'll refresh my page, and I can see that it says Honda Civic and Toyota Camry, and that did come from my database, but the pictures are showing up screwy. So to solve that problem, I just need to go and download some pictures. So I'm going to go look for that real quick. Okay, I found some pictures, and I'm just going to right-click these and save them as, save image as. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save them on the C drive in the XAMPP subfolder in htdocs, and I'll notice that there's an img folder here. So I'll go ahead and put them in there. This one is going to be called camry.jpg. Then I've got my Honda Civic here, and I'll save that one as Honda.jpg right next to it, or I'm sorry, Civic. So I've got the same names that I had in the database, and now when I look at my local host page again, it actually shows the pictures, and there's a login page here, which I can log in as the administrator of this website, go to the secret page, update my images, change the prices, change the names. This is great.